That would definitely help.
So church is just a lobster.
Man, when you're really sunburned, that's like the worst. You know, it's like you can't get comfortable in terms of temperature. You can't get comfortable in terms of clothing. Like it's just.
Let me tell you what'll change your life. There's this gel you can get. That's basically it's this aloe gel, but it has lidocaine in it. So it's a topical, basically, topical painkiller.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm cooked, but I don't feel it. So,
all right.
Helps at night. Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
It's awesome. All right. Facebook's up. YouTube's up. Hi, guys. Girls. People.
People of the world.
People of the world who are watching. Which right now is just us, probably. Barry's there. What's up, dude? We're going to get him back on at some point.
Yeah, we need to, for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's hit started. It's episode 85. It's Ocho Cinco, the Chad Johnson episode.
Ocho Cinco.
I feel like we should tag him when we post.
Why not? He'll probably want royalties for it, but
it's entirely possible.
You know, why not?
All right, here we go. Good afternoon / early evening, I guess, everybody. It's a Monday version of Gather the Nerds. This is episode 85, Ocho Cinco, a.k.a. Chad Johnson. I'm Cab the Snick.
What's up, guys?
What is happening?
Could you say, like, middle day? Kind of like middle earth, middle day?
Midday? Midday?
No, midday's noon.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's 5 o'clock our time. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It just happens to be 5 o'clock here right now.
Mid-late day.
Yes, mid-late.
There's our
happy hours are going in many different time zones at this point.
Not in this room.
Not in this room, however.
We are all business.
Yes.
I've been at the zoo all day. It's game on.
Yeah. A few little housekeeping things before we go. I'm horrendously bad about reminding people to go like us on Facebook, YouTube, stuff like that. That helps us a lot. We're going to do more media stuff. As you've seen, we've been on, Facebook Live pretty much. Every episode we record now. We're going to do some more stuff. I've been learning some cool stuff that we can do to make the live episodes a little more interactive and stuff, which will be fun. So like us on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes are huge. We're still rocking a 5-star review right now on iTunes,
which is great.
Yeah.
We just need more subscribes,
and so
shares and everything else.
We were sitting under the technology category for some reason. Is our primary, which was odd because it wasn't set up that way originally. So I made that change. We're back under TV and film now. So I don't know how that happened.
Okay, well, good. Maybe that'll help.
You never know. A couple of other things. It's our buddy Matt's birthday, so happy birthday to Matt.
Happy birthday.
Yep. And
he's in where? Gulf Shores.
I think he's in Gulf Shores right now.
Living the good life.
Yeah, some of the pictures he's posting,
out of this world.
Yeah, he's been having a good time fishing and doing some other stuff, so happy birthday to Matt. A shout out to Scott M. from Tulsa. We are also from Tulsa.
Scott Matheson.
I
just texted Mitchell and was like, what is your boss's name?
Yes. Longtime listener. Funny story there, which when we have Mitch back on, he'll tell it. But shout out to him. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting us.
Absolutely.
You might have a GTN care package coming your way in the near future.
Oh, you definitely do.
So
you definitely do. There's no might about it. You do.
So so thanks for that. That's pretty cool. A lot of things. Some announcements have happened in the last week, especially with like DC and Infinity War is crushing everything under the sun right now in terms of records and things like that. So we've got that. We've got some more movie news from a franchise that I love dearly. Some gaming stuff as we are on Warmind Eve. Destiny Warmind comes out tomorrow.
Yep. Now, can we start pre-download now?
We can pre-download at 12 o'clock our time tomorrow. It's gonna
5 o'clock tomorrow. I'll be able to play.
Yeah, probably. That's some technology news. Not a ton on the agenda today. So where would you like to start?
Let's see here. What do we got? Let's start with something related to Star Wars.
Okay.
That is not on the agenda. That just recently found out, literally before I came here.
Yeah, let's hit it.
Okay, Donald Glover.
Oh yeah.
Childish Gambino. Had no idea.
If you're not in I know I've not watched it yet, but they released a video.
His new video.
This is
America. I watched
it. And it has been like social media has been blowing up about it.
That's where I saw it. It was on social media.
Yeah.
Somebody else shared it. Erykah Badu had shared it, and then a friend of mine shared that, retweeted or reposted it. And that's where I was like, wait a minute, why is Donald Glover in this video? Mm-hmm. And then I start figuring it, like putting it all together, and I type in Donald Glover.
Google,
and I'm like,
is Donald Glover Childish Gambino?
Well, I hadn't even figured out who was singing the song, so I couldn't do that yet. And then I start seeing pictures of Childish Gambino on his album covers. I'm like, what is this? What is this? I knew it was like a surname. I knew that, but I just had never put it together. Thank you, iTunes, for helping me see the light. So. Yeah.
So even like Jeremy Hahn had talked about the video on his Facebook and stuff like that. So I haven't watched it yet, so I can't really comment on it. But
it's pretty intense.
I've heard.
It's pretty intense.
What's also likely to be intense is going to be the auction that's coming up for a bunch of Star Wars props, including Obi-Wan Kenobi actor Alec Guinness, his screen-used lightsaber, and the antique lightsaber chest that was in his I guess in his hut or whatever on whatever planet that was.
Wow.
Yeah, going up for auction now. Apparently
that's gonna fetch a price.
Yeah, apparently that chest has been weathered and stuff like that for other productions. So like
it's extra desert.
But yeah, props getting reused is not unusual. Like that happens.
I wonder if that's Maz, the one they used with Maz Kanata.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, you think they would put that in the auction that this was in that and
True.
Force Awakens?
True.
So Joni joined. Hi, Joni. Hi, Harper. So other things that are going up for auction, a 46-inch tall model of the Death Star is seen in Return of the Jedi, which I feel like we need for this room. It's only 4 feet tall, so it would only go from like the ceiling to almost,
I mean, we could rig it up to where it's hanging, and you don't even have to worry about
it. We could. Also, life-size models of C-3PO and Darth Vader that were special effects lifesaver.
I just need the cardboard guy in the back. Like there's several cardboard people in the original ending of A New Hope.
Yeah,
I need those guys.
We can
because that's about all I can afford. I think.
You. Like we're just gonna. I'm gonna start getting some random standees like at cons. You're like, okay, I'll give you $5. For this Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull standee because nobody else will buy it. And we'll just start putting them behind you.
There you
go. Let's see. The lightsaber chest, C-3PO Darth Vader expected to fetch between $60,000 and $80,000 a piece.
Seems about right.
The miniature Death Star is expected to fetch between $150,000 and $250,000. So,
I can see that because it's such an iconic thing.
What's funny is in the article, they don't even say what they estimate the lightsaber is going to go for.
No, it'll be out of this world.
Oh, it's going to be insane.
Yeah, because I feel like the one that Mark Hamill recently came back in contact with because somebody had sourced it out and found it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they never said the price on that either, and it was pretty expensive.
Oh, I bet. Other things happening in this auction: leather jacket from T2. From the first Terminator.
Ooh, that's cool. Yeah.
A chariot used in Ben-Hur, a nightgown from Gone with the Wind, as well as other things from Star Trek is also several pieces in there. In other movies, a spacesuit worn by Sigourney Weaver in Alien.
Oh, that'd be cool.
A flamethrower used by her character in Aliens, which I think that's pretty cool. The Harley Davidson motorcycle used in T2 Judgment Day when they're driving down, I guess that's the aqueduct and everything. On the motorcycle, that is also being auctioned as well.
Very cool.
A dress from Singing in the Rain, outfits by James Dean, Elizabeth Taylor, and Giant, Charlie Chaplin from The Great Dictator, even a coat from Citizen Kane. So here's the thing: I just want the auction book. Like
who cares about if you get the items?
I just want that. That's like one of my favorite things when Heritage does their big animation auction every year. Like I get the catalog in the mail, and there we go. I'm on camera now. It's probably that thick, so you can just sit there and flip through it for a year until the next one gets there. It's like, yep, can't afford that, can't afford that, can't afford that. It's pretty.
So when do they produce the books?
So that stuff they start gathering this stuff for the auction months and months and months in advance. So those books usually hit about a month and a half before the auction hits.
Okay. And so you have enough time to research it.
Oh yeah, you definitely have enough time to. And these aren't. Like these are full glossy, full color books. Like they are.
Well, yeah, they're asking you to spend a ton of money on an item.
Yeah.
They're gonna spend it on the production value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you imagine you're buying a photocell, or something like that, and it's in black and white?
Yeah, you're like,
Like it looks like an old newspaper.
what? So, yeah, so that's that is pretty cool. So that will be that auction is a profiles and history auction. Once it's done, we did this last year too. After the auction was done, we kind of flipped through things a little bit to see what things went for, and that was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, in other TV news, Hulu, which as everyone knows, it's the whole Hulu, Disney, whatever thing. The thing right now that Netflix does that Hulu doesn't is they don't Hulu. You can't download episodes for offline viewing. That is about to change, and so
You figured it had to.
Yep, because Amazon Prime does it as well,
Mm-hmm.
and so see here. This will be the first to offer it in its ad-supported tier. So basically, if you pay the $12 a month ad-free subscription, but there will also be when you're on the $8 ad-supported tier, you actually download the ads alongside the primary content. So basically, you still and it makes sense because they were ad-supported.
Mm-hmm.
Like why it would be hard for you to download them.
Right.
They probably had
right.
to figure out the mechanism to like, okay, I'm going to insert ads now. And making sure the ads stay relevant because, if I'm downloading episodes, if I'm on ad supported, I'm downloading, episodes from something whether now or a month from now, their advertisers change. So
True.
it makes
True.
sense to.
Well, and I mean, if you have the convenience of being able to take things with you and watch them at your leisure, an ad's not that
Yeah.
big of a deal.
Yeah, no, not really for some things. I mean, it's one of those things like I can't stand ads, like it drives me crazy, but we literally grew up in the DVR culture, in terms of like when we got to choose what we wanted to watch on TV, like by that point we had control, we could skip commercials.
Yeah, right.
We had a few years of appointment television, but for the most part, not really. One other streaming series that I'm really enjoying came on a recommendation from our friend Dwayne. We were talking about Star Trek Discovery, and I hadn't watched it yet.
Yeah. How is that?
It is incredible.
Is that on Hulu?
It is on CBS All Access. So it's on CBS thing. So CBS is now also tied into Amazon Prime, so you can tie your basically you can get CBS All Access from the Amazon Video interface. You still pay the separate fee. There's a trial, stuff like that. Like the first 8 episodes, the story's in 2 arcs right now. The first 8 episodes, it's really, really good. So if you're even remotely a Star Trek fan, it's worth watching at least the first 8 episodes. Like that first arc is really good, and it continues into the second arc. But I'm not done with the second arc yet, and so I'm still on the fence about that.
So is it original Star Trek?
I believe it is pre-Enterprise. Correct.
Okay.
Interesting.
Interesting. Does it look like it's pre-Enterprise?
No. It's gorgeous.
So, well, what I mean is like
I want to say
with
it's
their
pre-Enterprise.
uniforms.
I could be wrong about that.
With their uniforms and whatnot.
No, it's more modern. Maybe I'm wrong about it being pre-Enterprise.
See, I think that's kind of where I think that's where
I need
Star
to
Trek
go-
kind of struggles sometimes
I need to Google
is
this.
when you're in a process of like something that's they're like Star Wars, it's been around forever and a day, and if you come out with a new show that precedes the blockbuster and it doesn't look right, I don't know. So let's see, where does it fall in the timeline? The Star Trek timeline, or as Mitchell would say, the Trek Wars.
The Trek Wars.
Trek Wars timeline.
Okay, here's how it fits into Marco from time. Starts as a prequel to the original Star Trek, set 10 years before Kirk and Spock.
Interesting. But would you say that their uniforms look more retro?
No, they look more modern. Like they're still. I mean,
that's just confusing.
Well, here's the thing. They sort of remind me of the uniforms from Wrath of Khan, just a little more streamlined.
Yeah. Okay.
Not red, but a little
same
more
style.
streamlined. But what's interesting about like the technology and the technology and everything that they use, that they're working with, stuff like that. Like part of it is absolute throwback. like to the old day,
Sure.
like it's the phaser like pistols basically.
That look like a Dremel now, or
Yeah, basically.
because they have that pistol grip Dremel now.
Yeah, but there are some other technologies that they're working with that would absolutely change the Star Trek landscape completely.
Some of that's to be expected, though.
But I'm wondering how they are going to, if they when they wrap that up, how they're going to explain that. Because if
the Borg came in, wiped out all of existence, and then we got the Enterprise.
Yeah, like I don't want to spoil anything about it, but that thing, if the primary technology that they're talking about that the first arc especially is based around.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Discovery originally is a scientific ship,
right?
Based around, it would change Star Trek from now until the end of the Star Trek timeline. Like, if they had this technology, everything else is different, and so I'm really curious how they're gonna handle.
So
this.
They're already in space.
They're in space.
So this is past first contact. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are in space. They are
first contact's the point at which Star Trek universe is able to have intergalactic travel.
Travel.
Just so you know.
You meet Klingons and Vulcans.
Okay.
In the first
Which
8
weren't
episodes.
that, if I remember,
Yeah.
weren't those the first two, and then Romulans after that?
I think so. The Klingons don't look like your traditional Star Trek Next Generation Klingons. They're they're designed a little bit different, but it's really enjoyable. So if that's the thing, if you've got time, like I think the week maybe like the trial may be a week or maybe it's 2 weeks or something like that. Even if it's only a week, go watch the first 8 episodes. And see if you think it's worth spending $5.99 for an ad supporter for the last 8. But it's really good. So just wanted to put that.
Just so you know, Harper's not watching the feed. It's just Joni.
Okay.
Joni said she found Harper curled up on her beanbag in her bedroom asleep.
Nice. Are we that boring?
No, I think the zoo and the heat wore her out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my brother just joined. Hey Jack, what's going on? So let's talk movie news. Now, one of Matt and I's favorite movie franchises is Rambo. I love Rambo movies. Like,
is that where the line? Never mind. I'm not. I'll make myself sound silly if I do that. Never mind.
Okay. So First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3. He's essentially with the Taliban, which is a very interesting thing. The latest Rambo movie that came out. One of the absolute most, goriest battle scenes you'll ever see. In the time that, when we saw it in the movie theater, when this is happening, you're laughing and people are clapping. This is it's like Rambo of old. It's crazy. So there are reports coming out now that Stallone is going to reprise the role for another Rambo movie, which will be the 5th in the other one. He's set to star and possibly direct. He'll reportedly face off against Mexican cartels. Because at the end of Rambo 4, he basically comes home, finds his parents' home, that type of thing, and you see him walking down a long path on a farm. And that's where Rambo 4 ends. And there was always talk about what would be done next. And there was a Jason Statham movie, I can't remember the name of it, where basically he has his family there, and someone tries to break in or kidnaps his daughter or something like that, and he does what Jason Statham does and goes and kicks everybody in the face. That was the original script for Rambo 5. Okay. It was just adapted, and so I think they're kind of spinning that off a little bit. But it's been 10 years since we've had a Rambo movie. It's about time. So
it's about that point where we need more Rambo, huh?
Exactly. The synopsis is that when the daughter of one of his friends is kidnapped, Rambo, who's been working on a ranch, crosses the U.S.-Mexican border. Oh, there's a wall joke there. And quickly finds himself up against the full might of one of Mexico's most violent cartels. And so, yeah, it's gonna be a Rambo movie. I just need exploding tip arrows. That's really
against cartels, no less.
Against cartels, yeah. And so, You know, it's basically Rambo meets Narcos. Like, I'm okay with this. Like,
Rambo meets Narc. Yeah,
make
there
it
you
a
go.
Netflix series. Give me a Rambo Netflix series. How awesome would that
I don't think
be?
they could afford Stallone at this point.
I don't think so either. But here, well, I mean, but Netflix is spending $8 billion a year on new content.
Yeah, but not Stallone.
You can't tell me that you can pay Stallone $20 million to do 8 episodes.
I don't know.
I think
I'm not seeing it.
I mean, he's no spring chicken, but
But it's Stallone.
it is Stallone. He doesn't
Come
need
on.
the money at this point.
No, he doesn't. Neither does Will Smith, for that matter. You know.
He doesn't. That's true. I've been perusing his YouTube channel. It's wildly entertaining.
Oh, he's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a riot. I just want to find some box water.
Box water?
That's him and his son's water company,
Okay.
and they're literally the slogan on the side of the box says "Box water is better." that's just
What's
the slogan.
special about box water?
I guess it's made of BPA-free products because it's made of paper or tree. It's made from the earth.
It's made of boxes?
Yeah,
Okay.
wax from bees and cardboard from trees. I don't know, man.
Who
Like,
knows?
I just want to say that I drank some and I bought some
And-
overpriced water for no
And
reason.
whether it was or was not better, well,
Probably out of a toilet somewhere. I don't know.
who knows?
But I will say they did send a lot of free water, of that water, to Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
You know, when they were, I mean, they're still dealing with the crisis, but when it was in its peak, they
Yeah.
were just throwing water at it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's one thing that Will Smith isn't too terribly familiar with, but occasionally you look at like After Earth and in a few other of his movies are box office flops. Now, Church and I were talking about this because like Pacific Rim Uprising didn't do huge numbers here in the U.S., but the big thing now, like the U.S. is no longer the primary market; it's China.
Yeah.
And so I found an interesting article on NBC News talking about how flops in the U.S. are blockbusters in China a lot of the times, and that's how we keep getting sequels to things. And so,
That makes sense.
yeah, I mean, because you look at like Warcraft. Warcraft, when it got released here, like it was a complete and total flop. Like it made like
Because how do you make a game into a movie?
Yeah, and well,
Yeah.
Warcraft has the, I mean, it has the world, but I mean, doing something like that would be hard. It only made about 40 some odd $million here, like, and for a movie that cost $160 million, you
Yeah,
know,
no
that's a
doubt.
big thud. But in China, it grossed $200 million.
So they made money.
So you made after marketing, they probably broke even. But they said the premiere was like a festival over in China, the premiere for Warcraft. And so,
That's so. I mean, it's just interesting to me because it seems like if it's not like a shoot 'em up, blow 'em up movie that deals with military, the Taliban, terrorism in some way, something.
yeah,
If it's not something completely violent or something like that, or a Marvel movie,
or a Marvel
that,
movie.
that it just doesn't seem to do well.
Well, here's a list of movies that did better in China than in the U.S. The Fate of the Furious.
That shocks me.
Did 220-ish million here. Did almost 400 million in China. Transformers Last Night did like maybe 120 here. Did over 200 in China. The Kong Skull Island did better. The Triple X, the Return of Xander Cage did big money in China. Resident Evil did big money in China.
Which that does not surprise me one bit, because
No.
that's a video game adaptation.
But
I
here's
mean,
what's
it's
interesting.
Amazing.
Spider-Man: Homecoming, Thor: Ragnarok, Logan, Justice League, Guardians of the Galaxy, Wonder Woman, Rogue One did huge numbers in the U.S.
Not so.
and
well
not
done.
so much in China.
Interesting.
You know, then you've got movies like Geostorm and Valerian and The City of a Thousand Planets did about.
Have you
the
seen
same.
that?
Valerian? I've heard it's gorgeous, and I've
Oh,
heard
it's
it's not a
awesome.
bad watch.
No, it's a pretty good movie.
And so
It's in the Fifth Element universe.
yeah, because the same director, isn't it? Luke
Yeah.
Besson, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some definite. It's just interesting how, you know, that will be the thing that even though like Pacific Rim Uprising did hardly any business here, Ready Player One's doing the same thing. It did decent business here. It's doing gangbusters in China,
Yeah.
and so China may be how we get sequels for things. You know, because I want one more Pacific Rim because like they could really tie up the story, I think. And with one more, so hopefully we get there, but you know, there's no telling.
Just keep making Fast and Furious, and we're good.
Oh, those things are cash cows. They're gonna keep making that.
I'll watch them no matter what.
Yeah, until Vin Diesel like soups up his wheelchair. They're gonna make it. They're gonna keep making those movies.
Well, when you live your life a quarter of a mile at a time, 25 seconds is 25 seconds. You know.
So he's nos on his wheelchair.
He'll
Just like in the RX-7.
He'll blow himself to pieces.
Just like in the RX-7, he had it like in the
Hits
seat, in the passenger seat. It's
yeah.
going to be underneath the seat he's on. Like,
and then he hits the hazard button and it shoots out, and he,
exactly, with, you know, the stainless braided lines, and you can watch it go all the way down. Like, for all the inaccuracies in those scenes, like stuff like that, the visual of it, like,
oh no, it was out of this world.
From the gearbox all the way through was awesome. Like that.
I mean, the only thing in that, there's obviously a lot wrong with it, but it's a movie, and it's the Karate Kid storyline with cars, basically. I loved it. I mean, we've talked at length about this, but I loved it. And the reason I loved it is it was just so different. You know, it was different for the time. It was a cultural thing here in Oklahoma, even where the import scene was so huge, and we were desperately trying to look and be like California. Yeah. And then you see how it looks in California, and it's like, this is it. It was perfect. Yeah. It was exactly what I needed right at that time of my development.
Yeah. That was a lot of us are at our age. We all dug into that at some point in some way.
And now I just want to watch them because of all the action in the cars and everything else. Like, I could care less about the storyline. They are just turn off your brain and watch.
Absolutely. Some people might say that if you want to watch a DC movie, you just need to turn off your brain and watch. But there is something coming from DC that I am immensely excited about.
All right, let's talk about it.
So DC streaming service has an official name. It's called DC Universe. We don't know how much
creative.
Yet. It's creative, right? Someone probably paid someone a lot of money for that.
Because I'm thinking they might already have the DC Universe, and they refer to it
the
DCU.
So what's interesting about that is they've announced the first handful of programs, basically, that are going to come onto the DC Universe. Titans will be there.
Nice.
Young Justice Outsiders will be there.
Nice.
Harley Quinn will be there, which I'm interested in. And I'm wondering if it's going to be live action or not, if this is what Margot Robbie's been talking about.
That would be, I mean, it would be really cool if it was, because then they could go as dark as they wanted.
And the one that you want to talk about dark, the one thing I did not anticipate, but I am immensely excited about, Swamp Thing.
Okay.
We're getting a Swamp Thing series. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with that, because you could literally bring every single hero in the Swamp Thing universe one way or another. Like, Batman v Swamp Thing is one of the best graphic novel. Like, that run is amazing.
That does not sound to me like that would be something that not only that you would be in, but like other people would be into.
It is, because you talk about, like, you look at like Swamp Thing and his connection to the planet and the green, as he calls it, and things like that. And then Batman, and you know, if you look about it, like it's I mean, Swamp Thing is a super powered type, you know, hero and stuff like that, and Batman is the opposite, but Batman can have a big effect on that type of thing. Like, there's a scene where basically he's cutting through, like, I want to say it was the Batmobile, basically has giant saw blades on the end of it and cutting through all of this stuff. Makes Swamp Thing very angry. But it's a really good read, and so the fact that they're actually committing something to Swamp Thing is really exciting, because they were talking about at Dallas, Greg Capullo, Scott Snyder, stuff like that. There was some talk about Capullo on a Swamp Thing book at some point, and whether Scott Snyder would be involved, stuff like that. Like, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Scott Snyder's fingerprints are all over some of these things.
Yeah.
And that because he has a creative consulting contract with DC, and it expands more than just comic books. It's the whole universe. So that would be really cool.
Or is it that universe?
Yeah.
He's just calling it the whole DC universe, but he's really meaning this whole time the DC universe.
Yeah. Exactly. So
it's a bait and switch.
So we don't know the length of the contract for what they call the Arrowverse that's on Netflix currently. Like, Black Lightning just hit, because Black Lightning's done for the season. does not surprise me. The second that contract ends, all that stuff goes over to DCU.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. I think at that point, I'm subscribing because I love Arrow, and they can't be the storyline in Arrow can't go on much longer. I can't imagine.
Yeah, they're talking. I mean, they've renewed him for another season.
Okay.
So
I need the current season to hit Netflix so I can watch it.
But there are people who are in this season who are not coming back next season, so it's going to look a little different.
Yeah,
and so
that happens.
Yep. See here. Speaking of other DC stuff, people had asked the Russo brothers about who just directed Infinity War. You know, the biggest movie ever made.
And they crushed it.
Yes, they did. They're talking about why they'll never make a DC Comics movie, which is it's an interesting thing. And so they're quoted as saying, that where did I lost the quote? Where did that go? This is from comicmovie.com. So during a recent Q&A, one fan asked if they'd be interested in adapting a DC Comics property, given the differences those movies have to Marvel, and both shrugged off the possibility and pointed out they were always bigger fans of Marvel over DC growing up. Joe Russo also pointed out that characters from that world always felt too powerful and undefeatable to them, and they found it easier to relate to those from the Marvel universe. So, yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah, there you go.
Powerful, undefeatable. You're the guys who brought Thanos to the screen. So So here's the thing.
Enough said.
A big enough money truck and they'll come over to DC. Like,
True.
For the right property and stuff like that.
True.
They would have a lot of creative control.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, you could to bring them over for something big. Yeah, it would take a lot of money, but we've got
especially after the success of Infinity Wars.
They can do whatever they want. Joe Russo did say that the only character that is an exception to that is Batman, as he's always more human and is so different to his Justice League teammates. So he just like the comment says, maybe Joe Russo will take over the Batman when Matt Reeves inevitably quits. So
there you go. You know, I mean, there's something to be said about that from him, simply because what's Batman's superpower?
Either his brain or his money.
He's rich.
Yeah,
that's what he says in Justice League. So we know that the Russo brothers are also rich. So I can see the relation. Yeah. Maybe he is Batman.
Well, if you think about it, they've already done stuff with another rich superhero, with Tony Stark.
Very true. But Tony Stark has this thing in his chest that's kind of I guess he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
He did. That gave him powers. So
I mean, Batman has a Batcave. Like,
okay.
He has Alfred.
He goes and gets recharged like the Green Lantern, touches the lantern.
Alfred is Batman's superpower. If you think about it.
No, you're right.
He's always the one who brings him food, patches him up, keeps him tip-top shape. Alfred is Batman's superpower.
Yeah, I agree. And I loved seeing him in fatigues and combat boots in the last Batman movie. Yep. Loved it.
So speaking of Infinity War, it set a lot of records. In the first 11 days, it made $1 billion worldwide.
No biggie.
Yeah, no biggie. So they're talking about it took just over it took 11 days and $1 billion, which beat Force Awakens by 1 day. Force Awakens did it in 12.
I think
Infinity War did it in 11.
I think when you put them, and this is coming from me, Star Wars fan, mania. I think when you put the two films together, Infinity Wars every day of the week blows it out of the water. I think the reason that The Force Awakens did so much, and I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I'm just saying I think the reason that it took 12 days for it to reach that level is because it was the first Star Wars movie we've had in forever.
Yeah.
Whereas this is not the first Marvel movie we've had in forever. There was a Marvel movie last year that we went and watched, several,
Well, there's been 6 Marvel movies to make $1 billion. Now, none have made them this fast, but Black Panther has also crossed $1 billion mark. But you also wonder, like with Star Wars, like the first Star Wars movie in forever, how long, did the more casual viewer like, man, I'm gonna wait, like I don't the crowds and this and that, but because it was a new movie and maybe that maybe they cared about spoilers, maybe they didn't, because maybe they weren't hardcore into it. But everybody I know, whether they're diehard Marvel fans or not, they're like, "Don't tell me anything about Infinity War." Like
It's the same conversation.
Everybody's invested like crazy.
I have had so many people that I didn't even know watched any of the Avengers movies or any of the Marvel movies whatsoever, and they're like, "Did you see?" Because they know that we go usually the night that it comes out. Did you see Infinity Wars? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it good? Oh yeah. Okay, cool. I need to go get my tickets and see it. I said,
Yeah.
you better do it right now because I don't know that you're going to find tickets for a while. And I said, I had no idea that you watched those. And she goes, oh, we watch them all. We love them. You know, and it's that conversation has been repeated over and over and over again with people.
It has really brought out the closet nerd, like in terms of like everybody I know is excited about this movie.
Yeah.
Like they just want this movie,
and you know that's what it should be. I'm sorry, that's what it should be.
It's a phenomenon unlike anything else. And the thing is, like, you wonder if they can sustain it with Avengers 4. Like, and so
especially with how things played out in this last movie.
Absolutely. Now, the one thing they're saying is people are trying to get details about Avengers 4. We don't even have a title yet. Like there was
Avengers 4.
There was something that came out that said like Avengers 4 Endgame. Like, yep, that's the title. They're like, nope, that's not the title. But they said,
how funny if that would be the title, given what is said.
Oh yeah, that's why someone made the graphic, and so when talking about what happens at the end of Infinity War, which I'm not going to spoil here,
nope.
But even though we spoiled it last week.
Well, we spoiled it last week if you chose to keep listening.
If you chose to keep listening, yeah. So this is your last week of grace period. Come Saturday, we're talking about it.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
Anthony Russo says it's hard to talk about that because it's so specific to the ending. He said, "We'll say this: Thanos is a very formidable villain, and to beat Thanos will come at a very high cost. We're committed to stakes. We believe in stakes, and we like to shake up the Marvel universe." We had a big game changer at the end of Winter Soldier. We had a game changer at the end of Civil War, a big game changer at the end of Infinity War. Obviously, there will be a big game changer at the end of Avengers 4.
There you go.
So
they like the word game changer.
They really like the word game changer.
It's amazing.
One thing that I didn't really put together at the time, but this makes so much sense now. Like, my love for old television is not a secret. I love Cheers. I love Frasier, all of those things. The relationship of Doctor Strange and Iron Man based on Frasier and his brother Niles Crane.
Okay. School me, because I've never fully watched Frasier, but my dad used to watch it all the time.
So one of the writers, Stephen McFeely, and one of the screenwriters, Stephen McFeely and Christopher Marcus, were talking to Yahoo, and they said Frasier was influential in our decision to put Stark and Strange together. They said, you're going to do a spinoff of this character. You're going to give him a family, give him a brother, what people would say, let's give him a blue-collar brother, so let's go with the opposite. But they didn't do that. They said, they talked about how Tony Stark and Doctor Strange are really quite similar. They're talking about, maybe we separate them because they're two very similar characters. But then they talked about how the fact you look at something like Frasier and how, like, they're similar but different, and you play up those differences, and that's what that was the decision to put them together on screen together as that duo during that time, which makes total sense. Like, you really kind of get the the similar yet different and how they play off each other and things like that. Like, I just thought it was pretty.
That's interesting.
I thought it was very interesting. See, like it's. It's pretty awesome. Like I was reading that, I was like, "Holy cow, you've got to be kidding!"
That's why you like that part so much.
It might be. Like, if you think about it, like, I mean, there are a couple of my favorite characters. I do love Doctor Strange, just because of the time aspect of things. Like, I can't help it. Like, that's just me. But it was that pairing was a very cool pairing, and obviously central to what happens during the movie. I was talking to Barry.
Has he seen it now?
He has seen it.
Because I totally almost ruined it for him.
He has seen it. He has not listened to the last half of our last episode, but we were talking about it, and we were talking about the Doctor Strange part that I was talking about before, and he saw it the exact same way I did. And I've had the conversation that we had with several other people. They're just like, I didn't even put that together. Yeah. Like, I did not even put that together. And so I feel like that's the way they're going, but we'll talk about it more on Saturday. you know, we have people here just kind of now that we'll talk about it a little more freely. What was also running around free was the amount of money they're spending per day to shoot Infinity War. $450,000 a day.
Yeah.
And they still went over budget.
So, I can imagine why.
Yeah. So, I guess a couple years ago, they were talking about how when Avengers, when it's going to be like Infinity War is going to be part 1 and part 2, like the combined budget for that movie was $1 billion. Like Jeez. That was, you know, $500 million a piece.
Wow.
Now, comicmovie.com is reporting that Infinity War cost around $300 million to make, making it one of the most expensive movies of all time. They worked on a day-to-day basis upwards of $450,000 today. Now, jokingly, they said the cast gets most of it. We give most of it to Robert Downey Jr. They said. It said it does break down where the cast does get a large percentage of it. These movies have been incredibly successful. There's 18 main characters, and typically as movies succeed, the cast gets more expensive.
Yeah.
Visual effects are incredibly expensive, well into the hundreds of millions of dollars. They said that is the day-to-day running of an operation, is that they shot for a year straight from January to January, about 2 weeks in between. It took $350,000 to $450,000 a day just to keep the production running.
Jeez.
So they said the irony of it is no matter how much money you have, at some point you run out. So it's pretty crazy. He said it was an absolute sprint to the finish. So can you imagine?
No, I can't.
$500,000 a day.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like to even, I can't even visualize what that looks like. Man, it's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It is absolutely insane. Also insane is that we have another tech warning for you guys. I feel like we need music, like a red alert every time we have to do one of these things. Like,
so what's going on now?
Attention. This one is not as bad as normal. If you haven't changed your Twitter password in the last, you know, I'm going to say 30, 60 days or so, you should do so now. What has happened is that Twitter basically runs this hashing algorithm and things like that.
Sure.
And for passwords and stuff like that, and to hash everything so no one inside Twitter can actually see it. So they can support your account, but they don't know what your actual password is. There was a bug in said tool that they use, and they found an internal log that had everyone's passwords in plain text. Now, here's the good news. This was discovered inside Twitter.
Right.
This was addressed before they made it public. There's no evidence they've been misused anywhere. So this was they sent out a courtesy thing that basically said, you should change your password because we've seen them. Mm-hmm. Like Twitter employees have seen them. And so they said, they're quoted in their press release, they said, we recently identified a bug that stored passwords unmasked in an internal log. We have fixed the bug and our investigation shows no indication of breach or misuse by anyone. Out of abundance of caution, we ask you to consider changing your password on all services where you've used this password. Another reason to not use the same password everywhere.
Yeah.
So, so they're talking about, this is similar, a similar bug affected passwords if you use GitHub as well. It's a code sharing site. Same thing, internal log, shared passwords. You know, the hash was doing it unmasked instead of masked. So,
gotcha. Goodness.
Set yourself a reminder every so often. I should cycle my passwords.
Yep.
So, going from the crazy to the even more ridiculous, because Facebook isn't annoying enough. Mark Zuckerberg has announced Facebook dating, because that's all we need in this world.
Well, I mean, there were a few senators or whoever that were really concerned about the WhatsApp. So just imagine how concerned they're going to be about their dating app that they're going to be using.
Yep. So Zuckerberg describes the service as, and this is from Ars Technica, Zuckerberg describes the service as, quote, totally opt-in and, quote, not for hookups. So, if he's
good luck with that, bud.
Yeah, good luck. He stressed that the service will, among other things, consciously not connect people who are already connected on the site as friends. so you don't have to worry about it really.
It's kind of cool, like an awkward conversation at the
like
coffee bar. Yeah.
What now? And so
swipe left, swipe left.
So excuse me. There's no timeline for it yet, but the app is going to basically go over your Facebook profile, things like education, your job, all that other stuff, and those are going to be the matching algorithms. Yeah, because nothing bad is going to happen for that.
I want to see who gets paired with the guy that says that he's Batman.
That's true.
Or Iron Man.
Or true.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, it says. So I guess there's and I didn't want to realize this. They were talking about how you can log into other sites with your Facebook profile. Like, it's like a common.
You can use it as a means of identification.
A single sign-on, basically.
Yeah.
And I guess a user in 2017 had logged into Tinder with her Facebook creds, and how much that Tinder had pulled out of her Facebook account in terms of like all that information that was compiled for her. And you take that plus what happened with Cambridge Analytica and the political stuff, and you just realize how much of your life is in Facebook and how much of that can get sucked into.
Yeah, and how targeted you can end up being in terms of ads and politics and everything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Although something very interesting, I believe it was in a European court, sued Cambridge Analytica to show him every piece of data they have on him and won that case. So this is going to be very interesting to see. It could set a very interesting precedent in terms of that. Now, if you want to know if you were part of that Facebook breach, Facebook has done something very, very basic, very easy. In the past few weeks or so, you've probably logged into Facebook, and it's either said something along the lines of, we value your privacy. These are the things that we've done. Or you'll get a different message that says, hey, you should review your application stuff that has access to your Facebook account. If you got the message that said, we value your privacy, these are things we've done, you don't have to do anything, you weren't part of that leak. If you got the other message that says you should check your application you have associated with Facebook, you were part of that leak, and they have all your data. So
I'm just convinced somebody somewhere has all my data anyway.
They don't have mine, apparently.
Yeah.
And so...
Because you post on Facebook like 3 times a year.
That's true. I really don't post on Facebook that much.
I'm glad you don't paste on Facebook.
I don't paste on I don't paste on Facebook.
That would be unfortunate.
I don't paste on Facebook. Like
on Face Space.
Face Space. Yep, Face Space Stir. Friend.
I will say one of the funnier things that Disney has done in a lot of their newer movies is bring current humor, into the movie. And so with Moana, the newest movie with The Rock, I'm gonna really make myself sound like a dad right now, but he goes, when you sign an autograph with a bird, it's called tweeting, and it's just like those little subtle hints, it's just funny.
That is pretty.
It's enough to make the adults go, okay, this isn't such a bad movie.
Like, all right,
it's only 5 songs in, and we got 35 more to go.
Yeah,
we're good.
5 songs in, and the movies have been on for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's pretty much Moana right there.
Yeah, I just can't handle that. Like, I'm gonna lie, I can't. My disdain for musical episodes of television is well documented.
I will say that at least the songs in Moana are somewhat catchy, kind of like Frozen. Okay. Like enough that kids know them right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost terrifying, because 2 years ago it was Frozen nonstop.
Yeah.
And then Harper got old enough to watch Frozen, and then I had another year of Frozen while everybody else had moved on to something else. And then Moana right now.
Yeah.
So
they're professional earworms is what they are. Yeah. Like,
I'm just convinced I want to go to the island of Montanui.
I assume
I don't even know where it is.
You're like, I don't know what it is,
but I know it's a place.
No, it's a place. Yeah, I just can't.
Well, when all the movies that you like are not appropriate for your child,
true.
You have to take a sacrifice somewhere,
Yeah. You're not going to get John Wick the musical.
Yeah. Well, I don't want John Wick the musical. Thank you.
Oh boy. So let's talk about video games because that's what we do.
Video
sometimes.
games are a thing.
So Fortnite is this big, whole, huge thing, as you imagine.
My nephew saw that message from the teacher.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I said, hey, a couple weeks ago, did you get a weird message on your login screen? Stop playing it in such and such class. He goes, yeah, I was wondering what that was. I said, that was actually a teacher that reached out to the developers and they did that for him. He goes, that's crazy.
Well, someone else who reached out to developers of Fortnite was Anthony and Joe Russo, who directed Infinity War. Starting tomorrow, there is an Infinity War crossover in Fortnite.
Nice. So we need to play it.
The problem is tomorrow is Warmind for Destiny.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
There's that too. So Fortnite, I see more and more articles and people talking about like my kid has stopped focusing on his sports because all he wants to do is play Fortnite.
It happens.
And I mean, it is an incredibly, popular, crazy game because it's free. You can do all these things. Church started playing last weekend, I guess, and so we're gonna get.
Is that why you got sunburned instead of fishing? Because he said he didn't catch any fish. Was he just playing Fortnite?
Fortnite Mobile on his phone, like he'd never even open the tackle box. So there's a crossover coming on there. So if you play Fortnite, apparently you need to be on the look for the Infinity Gauntlet because if you find it,
snap your fingers.
You get all the powers of the Infinity Gauntlet. So come tomorrow, I think every Twitch mixer streamer or whatever who's playing Fortnite is going to be hunting for that thing.
Yeah, it
does turn your character into Thanos, which is pretty cool.
That is. They just want to turn back time.
I guess
they want to find a way.
I gotta find a way. I still love that Share Raptor thing that Sam did.
Oh, I know, it's hilarious.
It was perfect in every way. He's working on something. I don't know exactly what it is yet.
Sam's good, man. It doesn't matter what it is.
Really good.
He's got it.
And so I'm excited to find out what it's going to be. It has something to do with our audio. I don't know what exactly yet.
Great.
So yeah, be on the lookout for that as well. I unlocked a very interesting a rare Xbox achievement because I watch Twitch quite a bit. There's background noise, stuff like that. Then I heard this really weird, like the rare achievement sound. It's kind of like a wind chime type thing or whatever.
Okay.
And it says you've watched 100 hours of Twitch. I'm like, that's what I've done with my life.
This is how I know I have not been successful.
Yes, I've watched 4 days straight of Twitch. So, but
you watched 100 hours in 4 days?
No, not 4 days.
I was like,
no, over time.
There's not even 100 hours in 4 days.
So, it's been. I watched just a couple of streamers. One of them was part of the Destiny Summit, the one where they brought a bunch of streamers to Bungie to play Warmind and to play what's coming in September. And they're under an NDA, so they can't really talk about much. But the things that have been said about Warmind, things like that, leads me to believe they're turning things back in the right direction.
Let's hope.
And because a lot of people have come off it, like they're just done with it. And to that point is, so Activision has their quarterly earnings call with investors, stuff like that. Destiny 2 got like a 1-sentence mention, and that's it. That's not a good thing.
That's not good.
That's a bad thing. But the mention was talking about what's coming in September. And so if they do, like, this happened with Destiny 1 too. Like, you had Destiny and it came out, and then, the expansions were kind of but then Taken King came out and it really revitalized the game. That's when I got back into it, and it was great. Maybe that's what will happen in September. But apparently even this Warmind thing coming tomorrow is supposed to be a step in the right direction.
It needs to be, because I'll tell you, one of the things that's the most broke about the game is the drop rates.
Yes.
It's terrible, because you get 5 of the same weapon or boot or gauntlets or whatever it may be. You get 5 of the same ones at a very low light level that don't help you. You can't infuse them into anything to increase it. I've been sitting at 333 for months because I just quit playing. I got tired of doing the same thing over and over again for no benefit.
Yeah, that's why I stopped playing too.
Yeah. Like you stopped playing when you quit getting a rocket launcher.
Once I got my rocket launcher, that was it. That's all I needed. I stopped playing. So Tammy's watching on Facebook Live. She said something about don't even go there. True story. I assume you're talking about Fortnite. Chime in on Facebook chat. Let us know what you're talking about.
Tammy?
She's one of my friends.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
so,
I was thinking of Tammy that we both know. From
Tammy. No, different Tammy. And so it's a So yeah, I'm excited about Warmind. Like, it's gonna be.
It's either gonna be better or it's gonna be the same, but it's got to be better.
Well, I mean, we're getting some new content, some stuff. Maybe hopefully it's better than the last one. It took us a day to finish.
I did like the story of Osiris, though.
I did too. I like that part of it. We're gonna get more of that with Warmind, so it should be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
So video gamers, as we're talking about video gaming, so there's always been this stigma about video games, like they are loner people who live in their mom's basement, live off of junk food, basically take Mountain Dew in an IV, that type of thing. That has always been the stigma, to the point that like South Park has, one of the most kind of iconic images of what they think a gamer is. And it's this guy sitting there, and he's got like cans of Rockstar.
I think is that South Park?
That is absolutely South Park. Oh yeah, she's talking about Fortnite. She says, "My students have lost all control. I've had to learn it to teach new math concepts."
That's not bad, yeah.
Hey, we'll take that.
Yeah,
I mean, whatever you got to do to make. I mean, I would probably pay more attention if you're using video games to teach.
Yeah.
So,
especially if you're talking about something like geometry.
Yeah.
Like that's real world. If
bullet
you can bounce
angles.
a bullet. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
that might be bad if you start teaching them that. Like,
true.
So they're talking about. This is from Game Rant. Said gamers have often been stereotyped as antisocial, overweight, having no ambition, living in their mother's basements while playing video games all day. I would like to play video games all day. But a recent study by Alienware and Dell has found that gamers are in fact the opposite of those things. They surveyed gamers from 11 countries and found that, firstly, today's average gamer is not a teenager, but actually has a job and a family, and is often an active member of the community. Because gaming has grown so much, it's so easy to play with people from all over the world, because we play with people, Destiny, stuff like that constantly from
the
We Don't Know, Sea of Thieves, same thing. They said today's gamers are more accepting of others in terms of ethnicity, political views, sexual orientation. It says while being a gamer was once perceived as a negative, with such terms as nerd or geek being used to describe them, I take offense to that. They said now being a gamer is positive, and it's described as being cool, fun, and exciting, while also boasting other skills like leadership, strategic thinking, increased hand-eye coordination, and stuff like that. So we're not all bad people. Like, we're not all lazy people. There was always, that big turn against video games after like Columbine and stuff like that, which, it's in my opinion, now I'm not a professional at this like you are, but if you're playing certain video games can desensitize you to certain things. So can television, something like that. But I don't think that if you blame video games for going and doing something horrendous, I think there is inherently already a problem. I don't think that gaming will make you do that. Am I off base here?
I don't think that you're completely off base. I think depending on the age and mental capacity of the person, that plays into account as to what they see versus what justifies their actions.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The younger the child, obviously, the more likelihood they may not understand the finality of doing something horrendous, right?
Okay.
In terms of being desensitized to the gore, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we were playing The Division as a group, and aside from the angle at which you're playing the character, it was a little too real for me. And I just can't. I don't have any interest personally to play that game. You know what I mean? Like, nothing against the game. It's the same as a Call of Duty or something like that, where it's designed to be a realistic game. And I think we have started becoming a society where we want to find a reason why bad things happen because we need to find the cure. And you can call that immigration, you can call that gun control, you can call that any kind of political topic that's going on now as a result of any kind of mass shooting. And I don't disagree with those as potential influencers, but to say that they're the flat out reason, I think is not good. I don't think that that's an accurate way to solve a problem by just blaming an inanimate object. Because let's be honest, the game's going to do what the game is designed to do. It's designed to play and challenge the player. A gun is going to do what it's going to do. It's going to sit there until you touch it and do something with it. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely things that I would agree with pretty much anybody on a particular angle of the societal problem of mass shootings and that kind of a thing. I feel certain about that. I just don't, in my heart, I cannot get away from the fact that while all of those influencers are definitely there, and when we look at the majority of people that have committed these crimes, they're not rational citizens. They usually oftentimes have psychosis in their history or something to that effect, or they're abusing drugs in some way and they're on some sort of a violent, trip resulting from, drug use or something. That right there is part of it that nobody wants to talk about, and I think that's unfortunate because what we do is we, as a society, we find the one thing that causes the problem or helped cause the problem, and that's the problem now, right? That's the devil in the box, right? And I think when we do that, not only do we dishonor the victims of said act, but we also don't solve the problem,
Yeah, it just seems that, because I remember after Columbine specifically, like video games were the thing. Like
video games, Marilyn Manson.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, this exact thing happened to comic books back in the day. Like that's why the whole comic books code existed.
Right.
Is because of the McCarthy hearings and stuff like that. Like it is like you said, it is the sum of more than one problem. But in today's 24-hour news cycle, you find the sexy soundbite and you play it to death.
Well, and I think it's so much easier. I mean, let's be honest. It's easier for us as people, not even as a society, but as individuals, to blame something for our problems. It's much more easy to do that than it is to look inward and admit our faults, because nobody wants to do that. And I don't blame anybody for not wanting to do that. But the only way that you are able to address a problem wholeheartedly and actually move past that problem is by understanding how it's functioning in your life.
Absolutely.
And when we blame video games, when we blame gun control, when we blame all of the things that get blamed when bad things happen, we take away the responsibility from ourselves.
That's true.
I'm not saying that, things don't need to change in regard to those things, because I would agree that in some ways certain things need to do that.
But that's why the whole video game rating system came about too.
Right. And that again goes on to what? It goes on to society. It goes back to parents. And it's parents that are allowing the kids to see the game. It's the game that's desensitizing the kids because they're having exposure to it. It's our news that's constantly. I don't let my daughter watch the news for that reason.
Yeah.
Because it's constantly talking about somebody dying or getting killed or being murdered or
I don't watch the
whatever.
news because it brings me down. Like,
well, that too.
And I can't and the thing is, like, news, no matter what side of the fence you're on, right or left, no matter what news you watch, it's skewed, like hardcore, left or right.
100%.
Like there is no neutral anything. I don't even know if NPR at this point is neutral, but like in terms of like the desensitization of everything, like I always thought like, oh, that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. Well, after many seasons of things like Walking Dead and stuff like that, personally in my life, I was the first person upon this rather grisly car wreck. Didn't affect me like. In the moment, you're like, holy whatever. But in terms of like physical reaction you think you'd happen seeing something like that, nothing.
Well, absolutely. And some of that also plays into account of like adrenaline and that kind of a thing too.
Yeah, it was like I thought, oh, it's gonna come back. I'm gonna, it's gonna. I'll have nightmares about it, stuff like that. Nothing. Like, and so, it kind of, it started this really weird kind of like self-analysis of things. Like, I should have been more affected by that. Like,
yeah, in a way. But you also have to understand that your brain operates a specific way, and everybody's going to be affected differently by said event.
Oh yeah,
and there's not a. It's just like grief. Like, there's not a designated way that you grieve. Like, you're gonna grieve differently than how I grieve.
Oh, absolutely.
And while there are definitely stages, there's no right way to do it.
You mentioned that specifically. Like, there was we'll delve into my personal life ever so briefly here because I love to do that. Which is, after my dad passed away very suddenly, whatever, like my brain changed
Sure.
completely.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot about basically what a traumatic event will do to your brain
Mm-hmm.
and issues that I've never had before. Things like anxiety and stuff like that now play a real role in my life. And that's what started it. And so it's a very interesting, like, because for me, it's like, give me the science. Like, I don't need the head doctor in terms of like, oh, because this is, goes back to your childhood and stuff like that. Like, because I think it was relevant, and that's not how my brain works really. So it was like, show me the science of what happened. Like, explain to me what happens to you when something like that happens, and then I can start to cope and deal with it. Like that. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. And so, like you said, everyone grieves. Everyone's affected a little bit differently, but I've started, I spent a lot of time digging into that kind of stuff because I find it incredibly fascinating. Mm-hmm. that mm-hmm. you wouldn't think that something you've never dealt with your entire life all of a sudden is now practically overnight mm-hmm. becomes a real part of your life. And so, admittedly, like I hear, I get really frustrated about, millennial. I bash on millennials a lot. I'm sorry. In terms of like, oh, the whole like this triggers me type thing, and I think there are absolutely valid cases and invalid cases.
Sure, but just like everything else.
But now I completely understand it. Mm-hmm. Like stuff that never bothered me before. I'm like, yeah, no. Like my brain. I know what's going to happen in that situation.
Yeah,
and so, well, like I said, I probably completely didn't take some people or whatever seriously at the time, mistakenly. Now you learn. And so
yeah, but to kind of go back to the original topic and connect it, I mean,
because we completely derailed.
No, we're good. I'm saying to connect what you're saying, just like anything in life, like you have to reflect on what's going on. You have to know, to quote Moana, you have to know where you're going by knowing where you've been, because you can't connect them all if you don't understand how they're connected, or if you're unwilling mm-hmm. to understand it. Yeah. And while something happens like your dad, and in my case, my mom, very unexpectedly, it's one of those things that changes the way you look at so many things so rapidly that it's hard to comprehend it all. And it manifests itself in a lot of different ways: anxiety, frustration, depression, mm-hmm. Anger. And with that in mind, I still go back to the thing of, yes, my struggles as an adult, my struggles as a parent, my struggles as a young person, before now, centered around the loss of my mom. But those struggles and my continued struggles also improve who I am every day, I feel mm-hmm. like. And some days are better, some days are worse. Mm-hmm. But if I were to say, well, it's because my mom died, like that doesn't make sense in my world to justify any of my failures mm-hmm. or missteps, to blame that.
Yeah.
Even though that may be the cause or that may be a contributing factor, I don't feel like it does. And I think that's what you're saying too in regard to what you're trying to bring up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it definitely... It informs decisions.
Absolutely.
Like absolutely. Overnight, it changes things. And, at least in my life, for some very difficult decisions, just because, the person I was before he died and the person I was after he died are two very different people, two completely mm-hmm. different people. And you don't know, to kind of circle this back around to what we were talking about with video games and Columbine and stuff like that, like, it's not an excuse, but you also don't know what triggering event what could have mm-hmm. caused that. You've got abuse in the home, stuff like that. Like, it's not just the video game's fault. Like, there could be other things that happened, and rather than take any sort of, I don't want to say responsibility in terms of parenting and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, he played all these violent video games. I think that's exactly what happened in Columbine. I think was it the parents mm-hmm. that said he played all these violent video games?
That and they blamed Marilyn Manson
music and stuff like that. Yeah. And so, so much so is, so much of our life experiences, like you said, you got to, know where you're going to know where you came from or whatever. I've never seen Moana, so I can't sing the song, but
I didn't sing. I just quoted something.
So it is it is an interesting thing. And so, especially when you look at, you know, how you even look at like gamers, stuff like that. We talked about how society viewed them even 10 years ago versus now. Like, it's different. Like, now it's a job.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
you literally can go to work
yeah.
and get paid, pay your mortgage, pay your insurance, pay your retirement by playing a video game.
Yep.
And doing it all day long. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a job,
And-
but you can do it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's a real thing. It's just like YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube obviously wasn't an option when we were around,
I
but
wish
it's
it
now
was.
a career.
Man, if
You
it
know?
was.
Yeah, just be some of those first people.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd have been awesome.
That would have been great.
You know, but the thing is, to again kind of get back to what we were talking about, I think that we fail society and fail our kids and fail ourselves when we blame one thing for something that's bad. I think the conversation that needs to be happening is, what can we do to stop this?
Yeah.
What is it that is triggering some of these events? And what are we not currently doing that might have prevented it? In other words, mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health is something, obviously, you know, we've talked about it. I'm a counselor, and so mental health is something that, for me, is a big thing to not be scary.
Mm-hmm.
And we have stigmatized it so much in this society. And really, I don't know about other countries, but I believe it's the same in like Europe. It's not viewed the same.
Yeah.
Not viewed as necessary in some cases. If we don't get kids when they're at really high states of emotional growth, and if we don't, because let's face it, yes, in the 1950s these things didn't happen, and here's why: our cultural values have shifted. They have shifted drastically from do good, be this way, you know, be that type of community. We are no longer that United States. We're just not. And it's not immigrants' faults. It's not African American faults. It's not anybody's fault. It's just we have evolved as a society. And so we have to get out of this mentality of the 30s and the 40s and, you know, the Cleaver, you know, era, where everybody just did the right thing because it was the right thing to do, and the worst thing that maybe you did was break a window with a baseball or something.
Yeah.
Like, we have to get past that, because we're not going to get back to that.
Yeah.
We've evolved too much.
Yeah.
Yes, technology plays a part in that. Yes,
Plays a
social media plays a
huge
part in
part
that.
in that.
Yes, video games play a part in that. Movies, news, newspapers, books, you name it. All of it plays a part. We've all evolved as a result of those things, and that's a good thing. But we're treating everything and with the expectation that we live in the Cleaver era, and we just don't.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's fair. That's where I get stuck on, well, it's the gun's fault, or it's this fault, or it's that fault. I don't disagree that something needs to be done at all.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that some common sense gun laws might actually work. They might actually work. However, I'm also a firm believer that criminals don't follow laws. That's why they're criminals.
Yeah, it's true.
So, yes, it may work, but it might also not work. But I think we take comfort in blame, and that's going to solve the problem, because we've blamed something. But we're not looking at the bigger picture of mental
Fix
health.
this and all the problems go away.
Well, I don't know that all of them go away. I think
they-
you're still
and they
going to
don't.
have people that
And
do
they
bad
don't.
things.
That's
But I
what-
think that if you catch these young people, now the thing in Nevada, you know, that's not what I'm talking about. But these young people that are doing things,
Yeah.
if you catch them in a place before they're sent out of school, before they're suspended, before they're beat down, before they're bullied, if you can get them in a place where, yes, maybe they're not being toughened up enough at home, but if you can give them the skills to do so and to stand up for themselves and be their ally, I feel like, at least, you prevent a lot of this stuff. Maybe not all of it, because again, things are going to happen, you know, things are going to get slipped by, but you prevent a lot of it. And obviously there's a role model aspect to it. You know, there's got to be a parenting component to it. But I just feel like if we start looking at the family structure as it is, it looks so different. We have I work with kids that have parents that work 2 and 3 jobs just to pay their bills. That kind of a thing. And I see what that does to the family. They're great kids. They struggle with basic social skills because they don't have someone there teaching them. And that's not the fault of the parents. I mean, it would be if they were there, but they're not, you know. And I struggle with blaming one thing, because I feel like the one component that never gets mentioned and never really anybody wants to do with it, because that makes us weak is mental health.
Exactly. And, I think, and what's interesting about that is the First Lady today literally unveiled her
I'm about to
platform.
pull the camera.
Oh, you almost pulled the camera.
I'm trying to move my feet without doing it.
The First Lady today, literally earlier today, announced her formal platform called Be Best, which focuses on things like well-being, opioid abuse, and positivity on social media, and which I find ironic, considering
Well,
we're not going to go there, but it is a. But the thing is,
it's
like
a step in the right direction.
The thing you talked about, all the tools that pulled us in the wrong direction, technology, social media, stuff like that, can also be the tools to pull us right, if people will do it. And that's the thing. The internet is a. Don't get me wrong. I love the internet. It pays my bills, but it is a vile, angry place.
Well,
And
it's a place where people feel like they can say what they want.
It's the veil of anonymity.
Yeah.
Can say what they want, and I think as time has gone on, people have realized that that is not the case. Like,
well, you have a lot of young people that are destroying their lives over one tweet.
Oh, yeah. You saw
know,
what happened.
One picture.
There were some tweets that went back to high school, like 5 years ago or whatever. I think was it Josh Allen, one of the guys from the draft, was projected to be one of the number one picks. No, he didn't fall that far, but all that got leaked the day of the draft.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's convenient.
Yeah, it's convenient, right? Same thing happened to another pick a couple years ago, and he fell out of the first round, like into the second or third round. Like, cost him millions of dollars because there's a picture of him basically with a gas mask with like a joint on the end of it or something. It was something crazy.
I mean,
but it's I mean, to kind of circle this back around, it's you look at, and just like we talked about, we kind of talked about this, is like, this podcast is to be positive because anyone can be nerdy about anything. We're very positive about things.
Yeah.
But we also know that, and the thing is, we really don't hide from anything, stuff like that. Like you said, mental health is it is a stigmatized thing in this country, to the point, and I think you nailed it. Said, "Oh, that that makes you weak."
Mm-hmm.
And to the point, I mean, I'll even admit, a few years ago, like, I don't need that. That's not what.
Oh, yeah.
And but
I'm guilty of it myself.
But that's not. But I mean, in reality, that's not how that like.
But see, I think
you don't have control. Like,
I
you
think that
you do,
internally, though, when you're feeling that way, when you're saying to yourself, "I don't need that. I don't need that," it's not from your stigma of what mental health means. It's from your lack of desire to admit that you're not how you see yourself.
That's a valid point.
Yeah, I think the stigma that I'm referring to applies, but I also think that it's more like, oh, they're going to counseling, or they're, because again, same with like inanimate objects getting blamed for things, illness gets blamed for things too. Mm-hmm. People with autism, my niece has autism, and I hear often, oh, well, they just have autism, not in reference to my niece, but, oh, they just have autism and that's why they're acting that way. Well, yes, that is a function of their behavior, but they're still a human being.
Yeah.
They are not their disorder. Or, oh, they have bipolar disorder. Or, oh, they have ADHD. And I even say that about myself because I struggle with attention tremendously. But again, that's a function of my behavior. It's not a function of me.
Yeah. And
I think that's where the stigma is really bad, because rather than being able to just look in the mirror and say, oh, I have chickenpox, or oh, I have strep, it's, oh, I have bipolar disorder, or oh, I'm depressed, that's defeating in some way. But we don't hesitate when we have strep throat. I had strep throat this week. Didn't hesitate to go to the doctor.
That's why we're recording on Monday.
Yeah, by the way. Yeah. So,
but apparently the cure for that's hard cider.
Well, for the throat pain.
Yeah.
For the throat pain. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I said, this is a classic example. If this is your first episode, this is a classic example of a GTN rant where we just kind of go completely off topic.
Well, and the biggest thing is I hope that whenever I listen back to this, or somebody that's listening in, the next day or so, I hope that they hear what I'm saying at least, and even Cav too, because we're pushing kind of our agenda without trying to say that you're wrong for feeling how you feel. But my goal is always, when I get stuck on a rant, whether it's in a face-to-face thing or whether it's on here, is I want to just be honest about the facts as I see them. And
Yeah.
if somebody disagrees with them, by all means, please understand that that doesn't change my view of you.
Yeah.
You're welcome to disagree with me. Just, do it with facts. Let's
Yeah.
just talk about it, because dialogue's how we're going to change things.
Absolutely.
Politics is not going to do it. We've let politics try to do it for years. It's not working.
Not going to change.
It's not working.
And that's the thing, if you are I'm not a mental health professional. I can only speak from experience. But if you are struggling with something and you think you might want to go get some help or something like that, I can tell you just go do it. Like, it seems scary. It seems whatever. Like, I struggled that tremendously after my dad died. I started going to therapy. I have no problem telling people I go to therapy. It didn't bother me one bit. At the time, it's like, oh, I'm doing this, and I didn't tell anybody, like, because I kept it a secret.
I didn't know until we were coming back from Dallas one time.
And then you realize that all you're doing is trying to help yourself. So if you're on that fence, like, get off that fence. Like, just go. Get there. There's a lot of free resources, things like that. A lot of it you can be referred from your primary care physician. A lot of insurances cover it.
Yep.
Like, it is worth looking into, because I am a different person than after my dad passed away, but I am a better person in some respects because I actually asked for help and got help.
Yeah.
So,
well, and if you're in a situation where you feel like there is no answer, call somebody, please.
Absolutely.
Pick up the phone and call somebody. Call 5 people, call 10 people, call somebody until you get somebody.
Yep.
Let that be your stopping point. Until somebody answers, don't stop calling. And I mean, there is, an outreach line, a suicide prevention line. Just please, do yourself a favor and understand that there is more than one way to solve a problem.
Absolutely.
And suicide's not it.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I think that'll probably wrap up Ocho Cinco.
Ended on a downer.
I hope. A downer.
But we love you guys and want you guys to be safe and take care of yourself, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a, like I said, we do this, mainly because we like talking about this stuff, positive stuff. We encourage dialogue with people. We've had people popping in the Facebook chat, and things like that throughout this one. And we want to be more interactive and things like that. And, the thing is, like, everyone's nerdy about anything, and you'll find your tribe. Like, it'll happen. And so, it is a it is a great time to be a nerd. It is a great time just in general with what we can do with technology and things like that. So like he said, that there's more than one solution to a problem, and so reach out. And what we'll do is at the end of this one, we'll on the notes and stuff like that, we'll put some numbers and things like that in the liner notes and things like that. So, but so I don't forget this time, iTunes reviews, please, if you wouldn't mind. You can be honest with us. If you don't like us, you can give us 1 star. If you wouldn't mind telling us why first. Email us. You can email us at gatherthenerds@gmail.com or pod@gatherthenerds.com. You can hit us both places. You can reach us there. Facebook, Instagram. I think we have like 3 followers on Twitter. It'd be cool to get that number up.
I need, we got to talk about that.
So we can do that. But yeah, reach out to us, hang out with us, do those things. And Angela Hamilton says, nice hearing you. So
Angela. Oh, okay. Angie. Hi, Angie.
She says, hey, Nick. So yeah, this is Gather the Nerds, episode 85, Ocho Cinco.
Ocho Cinco.
We're
gonna run out of Spanish at some point.
I don't know,
because we're already killing the Spanish that we don't know.
I don't even know. What's next. We should be back. I think we'll be back this weekend.
It is Mother's Day.
Mother's Day's on Sunday.
Yeah, it's also my wife's birthday on Sunday. So
is it really?
Yeah. So it'll have to be a Saturday gig.
Absolutely, Saturday gig. We'll give Joni a big fat shout out. So that'll be fun. You have to bring a cool Joni story for that one.
Oh, there are so many though. How will I choose that she won't just make me sleep on the couch for the rest of my life?
That's true. Joni's the best.
It'll be worth it because there's a ton of stories.
So, all right, guys and gals, and other people. This has been episode 85 of Gather the Nerds. I'm Cav. That's Nick.
See you guys.
Bye. My recorder's off. Facebook still. Hi, Facebook. We're gonna.